لن نرى.
We will not leave. We will not leave. We will not leave. Palestine is our homeland. It is the land of our fathers, our grandfathers. It will remain ours. And if anyone were to leave, it would be the occupying usurpers. In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful. Mr. Philemon Yang, President of the General Assembly of the United Nations. Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. Ladies and gentlemen, heads and members of delegations, esteemed guests, peace and God's blessings be upon you all. I come to you today as my people, and for almost a year now, are subjected to one of the most heinous crimes of our era. It is a crime of a full-scale war, of genocide, that Israel is perpetrating. Israel, the occupying state. A crime that so far has killed more than 40,000 martyrs in Gaza alone, and thousands remain under the rubble. A crime that has injured more than 100,000 others to this day, and matters are getting worse. Hundreds of Palestinian families have been annihilated. Entire family names have been wiped out of the civil record. More than 100 families have been completely wiped out of the civil record. They no longer exist. Thousands have died because of the spread of disease and epidemics and the shortages in medicine and water. Moreover, more than 2 million Palestinians in Gaza have left their homes multiple times in search of safety and fleeing the systemic operations that the Israeli occupying army is perpetrating. And as this war of aggression continues, dozens are being killed every day, and double that amount is being injured amongst our bereft people in the Gaza Strip and in the West Bank and in Jerusalem. I'm not here to respond to the lies of the Israeli Prime Minister, lies that he said in his speech before the US Congress in July, where he claimed that his army does not kill innocent civilians in Gaza. I ask you by God, who is it then that killed more than 15,000 children of the 40,000, and an equal number of women and elderly persons from our people? And who is it then that is continuing to kill them? I ask you to answer me by God. Stop this crime. Stop it now. Stop killing children and women. Stop the genocide. Stop sending weapons to Israel. This madness cannot continue. The entire world is responsible for what is happening to our people in Gaza and the West Bank. The West Bank that is under a daily and continuous Israeli aggression. It is under a vicious settlement activity. They're building everywhere in Palestine, as if all of Palestine is theirs. It is subjected to the terrorism of gangs of settlers under the patronage and support of the Israeli government and the occupying army, which destroys hundreds of houses in the lands of Palestine, not to mention what our eternal capital, Al-Quds, is being subjected to in terms of campaigns to change its nature, to Judaize it, and to aggress it and its holy sites and landmarks, to change its historic and legal status. We've recently heard a terrorist Israeli minister calling for building a temple in the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We must condemn and stop this reckless minister and those like him who want to set fire, a fire of religious conflict and strife that will burn everything in its way. The Aqsa Mosque and its surroundings, ladies and gentlemen, is the exclusive property of Muslims. This has been endorsed by a resolution taken by the League of Nations in 1930. This was a resolution by the League of Nations, and we will accept nothing else regardless of the circumstances. Ladies and gentlemen, we have repeatedly warned here in the General Assembly that the situation in the occupied land of the State of Palestine warns of an explosion, and this explosion has happened. It happened on October 7th of last year and afterwards. And from the very first day, I stressed the need to immediately stop the war. I condemned the killing of civilians regardless of who they are and regardless of what side they were on or any people they were from. I demanded the release of prisoners and those detained by both sides. There is no need to detain women, children, and the elderly. We've said this repeatedly. To anyone who has those people detained, I called for immediately going to the negotiations table to implement the two-state solution based on international resolutions. But instead of heeding the voice of reason, the Israeli government took advantage of what happened to launch an all-out war of genocide against Gaza. It committed and continues to commit war crimes as acknowledged by the international community. They're called war crimes. Israel today is now launching a new aggression on the brotherly Lebanese people. The Lebanese people are now being subjected to a war of genocide. And Israel must stop the war in Lebanon and in Palestine.